Good afternoon and welcome to today's Caregiver Health and Wellness Workshop, Resistance Training for Caregivers. My name is Tammy Cave and I am a Management Analyst and Caregiver Specialist with the Caregiver and Supportive Services Unit with the Fairfax County Area Agency on Aging. A few housekeeping items before we begin today's session. Today's presentation is being recorded. A link for the recording of this session will be sent to all registrants by next week, and the slides have been emailed to you this morning, and they will be sent out again with the recording. If you have any questions during today's workshop, please use your Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can ask questions throughout the workshop today. At the end of the presentation, there will be a quick survey. Please take a moment to answer those questions. It helps us create programs that are relevant and interesting to our caregiving community. For today's workshop, we wanted to remind the audience to always consult a physician prior to beginning any exercise or resistance training program. The Training the Older Adult Trainer is not a licensed physician or medical provider, but rather a certified personal trainer and strength coach. In no way should the information provided by the trainer today be considered medical advice. At all times, the advice of a medical professional should supersede recommendations from today's trainer. Training the Older Adult nor Fairfax Area Agency on Aging assumes responsibility for the participation in today's training. Now, I would like to introduce our instructor for today, Shannon Royce. Shannon Royce is one of several affiliates of Training the Older Adults across the U.S. and Canada. Training the Older Adult is a personal training studio for older adults, and it is located in Bryson City, North Carolina. Royce is an NAFC Certified Personal Trainer. She is Training the Older Adult Certified and a Functional Aging Specialist. She has been working with the older adult population since 2017. Her passion for working with older adults started with her training at a local gym, which was associated with a physical therapy clinic. As time went on, she trained many of the clients from that physical therapy clinic. 3 years ago, Royce opened her own facility and specializes in semi-private and special group training. Shannon has recently been certified to teach a Matter of Balance, a fall prevention course, and Tai Chi for fall prevention and arthritis. She is excited to continuously share her love for physical education in the community, both locally and virtually. Shannon, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your knowledge with our family caregivers. Please join us on camera and take it away.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for that amazing introduction. I'm very, very excited to be here with all of you. This is my first go round at a webinar, so I hope you guys enjoy it. As Tammy mentioned, I'm very passionate about what I do. All of my training, my certifications, everything I do on a day-to-day basis is focused on population. And older population is anywhere from 50 on up. I'm 52, I fit into that category as well. Most of us, as we get older, have some sort of limitation that develops. Something usually from our ankles, our feet, all the way up. And one of the things that I enjoy doing most is working with the adults as they get older and helping them work through a lot of those limitations and enabling them to keep doing the things that they love to do, whether it's playing with grandkids, whether it's gardening, going hiking. So that's a little bit about what I do from the strength training background. But as Tammy mentioned, I also am certified in Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention and teaching the class called A Matter of Balance. I recently became certified by Yoga Fit to teach a Yoga Fit for seniors, or as we also like to refer to as an adaptive yoga. It's not only for seniors, however, the yoga class can be adapted to those who maybe can't get into regular yoga poses as easily as they might like to. So often using things like a chair to help assist with that. So anything that we can do to address the balance, fall prevention, whether it's through education, one-on-one or small group training, whether it's Tai Chi or yoga. Those are the different ways that we can help folks that are maybe having some challenges with their body. So as Tammy mentioned, I'm a certified personal trainer. I am the specialist in training the older adult and a functional aging specialist. She mentioned that Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention, it has been a recent certification, as well as the Yoga Fit. And I'm in the process of wrapping up teaching my first Matter Balance class, which has been a wonderful opportunity to help those folks and educate them on ways of being able to stay more upright. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and kind of walk you through some information on strength training and the importance of it and things that we can do to maybe help you as a caregiver be a little bit more effective. So some of the tools, general tools for caregivers are being active, keeping up with your own health, reaching out for support, that's very important, being kind to yourself, taking the time to relax, making sure that you're eating well, you prioritize your sleep, and you're trying to reduce your stress. The one piece of those tools that I'm going to focus on today is strength training. So you can see on the slideshow, and I'm not going to read all of this, you will have copies of the slideshow you can refer back to, but one of the things I did want to talk about is resistance training 2 to 3 times a week will just make you stronger and more able to better care for those that are in your stead, that you're taking care of, a loved one, relative, friend, whoever that may be. So strength training helps reduce the risk of some cardiac diseases, and it helps reduce insulin levels, and it can help decrease your blood pressure. And as a caregiver, I'm sure we're all under a lot of stress. So trying to keep our blood pressure low, keeping ourselves strong, and taking very good care of ourselves will only help us be better for those around us. As they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. So hopefully what we're going through today will help fill your cup and better equip you to take care of those in your keep. So how long and how much should you strength train? That's a question that I often get a lot, especially from people that are just starting out. So you want to aim for maybe 20 minutes a day, but you can start as little as 2 to 3 minutes. Start where you're at. There is no precise science with this. If 20 minutes feels good, great. If you want to do 10 minutes in the morning and maybe 10 minutes later in the day, if that's all the energy that you have or the time, then by all means start there. So generally we recommend starting with 5 to 10 repetitions of each exercise. But again, listen to your body. It's going to be the best determinant of how many of those repetitions. So maybe you start with 5 and that feels good for today. And the next time you do that exercise, maybe you try 6 and you work your way up to 10. So just feel it out. It depends on where you are on your health and fitness journey. We also recommend starting with just your body weight. And I'm going to demonstrate a lot of the exercises just using your own body, but then also how you can incorporate basic household items that you likely have in your home to make the exercises more challenging as you get stronger. So things like bottles of water, cans of soup, cat litter, carriers, things like that. Anything can be used as a tool for exercise. So don't think that you need to run out to the nearest Dick's Sporting Goods or go on Amazon and order all of this fitness and exercise equipment. You can use what you have at home. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. What should you eat and how long before should you eat before you start exercising? Recommend about an hour before you're going to exercise. You don't want to have a big meal. It's better to have something small. You don't want your digestion to be working overtime while you're trying to exercise. So you want things that have a carbohydrate in them. So something like having a bagel or an English muffin, maybe having some yogurt, have a piece of fruit, some low-fat granola, something of that nature that gives you just that little bit of energy before you start your exercise. About an hour before you get started will give you that little bit of fuel that you need in your body for your muscles to work properly. So about an hour before, something with a carbohydrate. The same goes for afterwards. What are things that you should eat after you work out? So within 2 hours of working out, we suggest something that is a combination of a carbohydrate and a protein. So think about like a turkey and cheese sandwich. That gives you the carbohydrates from the bread, and the turkey and cheese offer that protein, okay? Or some yogurt with fruit, a peanut butter sandwich, low-fat chocolate milk and pretzels. That's one of my favorite recovery tools. Like I said, turkey on whole grain, maybe with some vegetables. So that'll get you your energy back after you've exercised. The protein also helps build back that muscle that you've used and helps with your recovery. So that's the food component. The other component that's equally as important is your hydration. So making sure that you're drinking enough fluids before you work out, during your workout, and after you work out. And as we get older, we have a tendency to want to drink less, so it's less trips to the bathroom. But it's something that we have to work on. And they recommend drinking half your body weight in ounces of water. So if I weigh 150 pounds, I should be drinking about 75 ounces of water during the day. And that seems like a lot, but if you think about it, if you break that up from when you get up in the morning and have that throughout the day, stopping early in the evening, you can actually get that in fairly easily. All right, so you want to stay hydrated. Your body will appreciate it. It helps with your memory. Your body is mostly made up of water, so your body will be happy. So you want to drink that throughout. And know that if you're being active outside and you're going to be in a hot condition, then increasing that amount of water will help you. It helps with dizziness, helps just keep you going, helps your mind be able to think more clearly. All right, and then Tammy went over the disclaimer. We've got it in the PowerPoint, but just wanted to go over that training the older adult, we're personal trainers, we're not medical specialists. So always seek guidance from your medical provider before beginning any exercise program or any strength training program. And anything that we go over today, if it doesn't feel good or your doctor has told you otherwise, please listen to your healthcare provider. They supersede anything that we're going to go over today. Okay, so we assume the responsibility for the improper use of and self-diagnosing, which we're not going to do. So if you come in to me and tell me that your shoulder is bothering you, I'm going to say, have you seen your doctor? Please go see your doctor or physical therapist, have them look at it, give you the diagnosis, and then come back in and tell me, and then we will work with what it is that they have recommended. So just know that anything that I go over today, make sure that it's been cleared by your doctor first. So if you'd like to join me, we're going to go through some gentle stretches. I always recommend doing some type of a warm-up, 5 to 10 minutes before starting any kind of strength training or resistance training program. This helps get your muscles loose, better able to do the exercise, but also it helps prevent injury. So you never want to start any kind of an exercise. Don't just jump out of bed and start doing bicep curls or doing squats. Your muscles are cold and tight, and we want to warm those up and get them going, get them warm and loose before we start doing any exercises. So I'm going to have a seat. Again, feel free to join me. But I like to start exercises, my stretches, from the top of the body and working our way down. So let's go through some just gentle neck stretches, and I'm just going to demonstrate a few of these, but sitting up nice and tall. And I would like to take a big breath in through the nose, and then gently looking out over your left shoulder.
Hey, Shannon,
Feel comfortable? Yes.
Would you be able to stop sharing so we can see you a little bit better?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you,
Thank
Tammy.
you so much.
Absolutely. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so some gentle neck stretches. So turning your head gently to the left. And again, just staying with what's comfortable for you. We're not trying to force anything. We're just trying to invite some gentle movement. And then pausing in the middle and looking over the right shoulder. Okay, and I would say do that 3 times on each side. And then if it feels good, you can also take your chin down towards your chest. And then coming back to the middle and then gently gazing up. And coming back to the middle. So moving nice and slow, especially if you have a tendency, if you have vertigo or any kind of dizziness, just work within what feels comfortable, not moving too quickly. So we'll move down to our shoulders, and one of a really nice shoulder stretch is just doing some shoulder rolls. So just taking our shoulders and gently moving them in a forward motion, loosening up those shoulder joints, and maybe 3 to 5 times forward, and then moving them 3 to 5 times towards the back. And then we'll go into working some things on the back and on the sides in our core. So we're just gonna take our hand and we're gonna just push across our body and the other hand across the body. So 3 times on each side of that. Then we're gonna do that pushing up towards the ceiling, like you wanna high five the ceiling. Right, so 3 to 5 times of that, and then we're gonna high five the floor. So we're gonna reach down and across, coming back up, reach down and across 3 to 5 times there. So let's work down to the legs. We're gonna do some straightening and bending of the leg. If you can pick up your foot. It doesn't have to come up very high off the floor, and we're just gonna straighten it and bend it. And if you need to support it, holding your hand under here, that's perfectly fine. So we're gonna do 3 on each leg. So again, picking it up, holding it, supporting it. And then lastly, we're gonna work our ankles. So we're gonna take that foot out again and do some gentle ankle circles in one direction, and then some gentle ankle circles in the opposite direction. And then we're gonna do some pointing of the toe and flexing of the toe. So once you've done that on one side, you'll repeat on the other side. And just getting some movement in those ankles. Okay, so that should take you maybe 3, 7, 10 minutes. We've now loosened up a lot of the muscles that we're going to use for our exercises. So with our exercises, we are going to go through some motions that require us to hinge from the hips. We're going to use some exercises that allow us to reach up overhead. And we're going to do some exercises that require us to engage our core and to carry objects, since those are all motions that we do in our everyday life. We are constantly sitting down and standing up. We are constantly reaching up overhead, and we are usually carrying something, whether it be groceries, plants, equipment, whatever that happens to be. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate each one of the exercises today in 2 different formats. The first format will be one that doesn't require assistance or that you can add weight to. And then the other format I'll demonstrate is one where we need to use maybe a little bit of assistance. So whether it is a cane, or whether we need to use a tabletop, or things that you can do in bed if you can't get down on the floor, things that we can do elevated if we can't get down on the floor. So I'm going to show a couple of different versions of each one of the exercises. So the first exercise we're going to do will be a sit to stand. And so I recommend having a nice sturdy chair. If you can have it up against something, that's great. You want it on a surface that's not going to move. So I wouldn't recommend doing this in a chair that has wheels or that's on any kind of a slippery surface. So with the sit to stands, And I have a 2-inch cushion on here. You can use a pillow, a blanket, anything that you might have at home. If you find that sitting to standing all the way down onto a chair is painful or it's not accessible. So when we begin, we want to stand in front of the chair. We want to hinge at our hips. We want to stick our bottoms back first. And then we want to gently lower down into that chair, trying to make sure that our knees are still above our ankles. And the same thing when I stand up, I'm going to push the floor away with my heels, squeeze my bum cheeks, and imagine I have a string pulling me up to the sky. So that looks like this. So I squeeze my bottom, squeeze my legs to help get me up out of that chair. So again, as I go back down, same thing, and then we push the floor away and we stand. There's a couple of different things that you can do to make that a little bit more challenging. So if you've done that for a while and it feels good and you're comfortable, this is my can of tomatoes that is simulating a weight. You can hold a weight and make that a little bit more challenging. You can hold the weight here up at your chest when you sit and stand, or you can hold it down here between your knees when you sit and stand. So that gives you just a little bit more resistance for getting up and down. One other item, this is if you happen to have resistance bands or you want to use them, putting the band on, sliding it on over the top of those knees, and then sitting to standing with the band on also makes it a little bit more challenging and it engages more muscles. Okay, so that's a very important thing. We need to make sure that we have very strong legs to be able to get up and down, and also to assist people getting up and down. So the other version of this that I wanted to show you is if you needed assistance. So if you need a cane or an assisted device, okay, you want to firmly plant the cane into the floor, press it down, and sit down the same way. And then pressing the cane into the floor, standing up. Okay, so we just want to try not to rock. So what we are trying to avoid is getting that momentum and rocking. All right, we want to push through the floor. The other option that you have is if you do this in a kitchen or somewhere where you have a countertop, you can have your countertop in front of you, placing your hands firmly on the countertop and pressing in to the countertop to help you stand and to sit back down. So those are just some options for those of you that maybe need a little bit more assistance, or for those of you that want to make it a little bit more challenging. So our second exercise will be step ups. And in order to do a step up, I'm going to demonstrate. I happen to have a pad here that I use here in the gym, but what I would recommend is, you know, finding if you have a stool that's sturdy, or just a step at home using the bottom step, that would work fine too. So anything that you have handy. This is about 6 inches that I have. A normal step is somewhere between 8 and 10 inches. If you need to go a little bit lower, then do that as well. So just use what you have. So when we begin our step up, we're going to step with one foot. You want to firmly press that foot into the step and then bring the other foot up to follow it. Now you can do step ups one of 2 ways. You can step up with one leg only, stepping all the way down, stepping all the way up, or you can alternate feet. So one foot down, one foot up, the other foot down, the other foot up. And one of the reasons that I always keep one foot planted on the step is to help with fall prevention and tripping. There's less likelihood of you tripping and stumbling if you have one foot firmly planted on there at all times. If you take both feet off and you go to step and you can catch your toe and go forward, and we'd like to avoid keeping people off of the floor and tripping. Fall prevention, remember I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, is something very near and dear to my heart. So let's try to do what we can to prevent that from happening. So those are a couple of different options for step ups. One other thing that you can do to make it a little bit more challenging is holding a weight. We can hold a weight in one hand. Having one foot on the step and stepping up makes that a little bit more challenging, or holding the weight here at your chest and stepping up can also make that more challenging. So again, start with just body weight, and as you gradually get stronger, feel free to add a little bit of resistance with that. Now, for those of you that might need a little assistance, and maybe we'd want to try step ups, but we need to use an assistive device. We want to step up with our strong leg. For me, that's my right leg. We want to bring our assistive device onto the step, and then stepping up with maybe the leg that's a little bit weaker. And when we step down, we want to step down with that weak leg, bring the strong leg, and then bring the assistive device with us. So those are things that we can practice at home. If you have a staircase that has a railing, by all means, hold on to the staircase. Again, stepping up with your strong leg, bring your assistive device, weak leg, hold on to the railing, and reverse as you come down. So that's your step ups. So those are very important for leg strength. And again, I mentioned leg strength is important for lifting, for getting up and down, for getting in and out of the car, for getting out of a booth at a restaurant, getting up and down from dinner, getting up and down off the toilet. So we want those legs to be nice and strong. And those are a couple of very accessible exercises to do at home. So for our third exercise, we're going to do what I call a bridge. All right, so for those of you that are able to get down on the floor, then this exercise works really well on the floor. And then I'll show you another way to do it if you can't get on the floor, because not all of us can get on the floor. Okay, so this is called a glute bridge. We begin this exercise on our back. We would like to put our heels down and our toes pointing towards the sky. We would tuck our shoulder blades under. Our elbows are on the floor, and we're going to make fists with our hands. Then we're going to lift up our hips towards the ceiling. And ideally, we'd like to have a straight line from our knees to our hips to our shoulders. But if you don't have that type of range of motion, and just coming partway up is where you have to start, then by all means. The other thing that I'll say is having your heels down and your toes up works the back of these legs quite a bit. So if you have a tendency to get cramps in your legs or in your hamstrings, or if it's too much here on the front of your legs, feel free to put your feet down on the floor when you do that. You can still get all of the benefits, but it might lessen the intensity of some of those areas that have a tendency to talk to you a little bit while you're exercising, until things get a little stronger and a little bit more fluid, okay? The exercise can also be performed in a bed, so this is something that you could do while lying in bed. You could do this first thing in the morning, you could do it at any point. So if you're in bed, same thing. Feet down on the floor, try to make your elbows down, make your fists, and again, just rising up. Start small. So if your movement and your range of motion is here, then start there by all means, and then work your way up. So for those of you that like a little bit more challenge, you can also grab a weight. Again, you can use 2 soup cans, 2 water bottles, whatever it is that you happen to have around you. And you can put those weights on your hips. You could do this in bed too. If you're feeling strong in bed, by all means, use some soup cans or water bottles as a little bit of added resistance. Okay, but only progress at a rate that feels comfortable for you. You don't want to do too much too soon and get injured and then hate doing exercise and never want to do it again. We want this to be something that you can do as a lifelong practice and enjoy. Okay, so don't go out of the gate too strong. Let's see, from here, we are going to do some overhead presses. So again, I'm gonna get out of the chair. You can do this exercise seated or standing. I'm gonna show you seated. And I'm gonna show you how we're going to progress this. So we're seated. If you just want to start with just body weight, we're just gonna reach those fingertips up towards the sky. The goal here is to try to get our arms in line with our ears, if not just a little bit behind. But if your range of motion is here and we have really stiff shoulders, we can still do that too. We're just trying to work that shoulder joint for keeping you strong and able to do things. So if you're reaching stuff into the cupboard, or even if you're taking off your shirt, or ladies, your bra, we still need to try to get those arms overhead, right? So we want to keep those shoulders working as best as we can. So if you've done some body weight ones and this is, you know, super easy and you're like, oh, I think I could do a little bit more, then feel free to grab some weights and again, start light and then work up. So we have our weights, we're gonna press that up overhead. Really trying to stretch that up there, we're really trying to get our arms alongside our ears. Okay, so that's a great exercise for those shoulders. We have another option. If it really is challenging and we can't get those arms up overhead, that's not a problem. We have a solution. Again, everything I do is adaptive for somebody that has some type of limitation. So we like to make everything yoga, Tai Chi, exercise accessible for all bodies and all abilities. So we're gonna come down on the floor, we're gonna do that same movement, but we're gonna do it lying down, because that might be a little bit easier. So if we're doing this on the floor, again, starting with body weight, taking our arms, and then bringing them back, our thumbs pointed towards the floor, and just trying to bring those thumbs to the floor, if that's possible. If not, bring it back as far as feels comfortable. And then work that. So it's the same shoulder motion. We're just doing it from the floor and letting gravity help us work our shoulders. Right? So if that feels comfortable, then we can grab one of our weights, our soup can, our water bottle, whatever it happens to be. Hold it on both sides. Again, start light. And then take that back. And that becomes a little bit more challenging. Okay? So I also recommend just going light and then you gradually build up from there. We're not trying to inflict any harm. And always with any of these exercises, if anything pinches or catches or has any kind of a zinger or doesn't feel good, then please stop. If you have a little generalized muscle burning and it feels like things are working, that's okay. But if we enter into a place where things are pinchy and owie, please don't continue with that exercise. Maybe we've done too much too soon. Maybe we need to go back a little ways and start with body weight and work our way back up. Okay. So those, we've done our glute bridges, we've done our shoulder presses, we've done our pullovers, our step ups, our sit to stands. So those are the things that involve some weights. Now, one of the other things that helps keep us strong, and especially if we're lifting, or we have to twist and we move, we want to keep our back safe, is we want a nice strong core. And your core is the cylinder, kind of goes all the way in here. So it's not just do we have a six-pack abs, but are we strong all the way through, okay? We're going to do some planks. I'm going to show you a couple of variations of a plank that'll help keep that core strong, and it's pretty much an accessible exercise for everyone. This also can be done in the bed. So I'm going to show you on the floor. I'm going to show you elevated. I'll show you a couple of different options, and I'll walk you through how to do it correctly and where you should feel it. So if you're on the floor, okay, we're going to come onto our forearms. All right, so my elbows are directly underneath my shoulders. My hands are directly out in front. I'm going to walk my feet back. So I'm now in a nice straight line. I'm going to lift up just slightly, pulling my belly button towards my spine. That keeps my low back safe. Okay, my feet are together. I'm squeezing all of my muscles, and already I'm starting to shake, and I just started. So there's one version of a plank. If this is too challenging, you can always do this down on your knees. Same exact thing, pulling my belly button to my spine. Everything else stays the same, but I'm on my knees, and maybe that makes it a little bit easier. That's if you can get down on the floor. If the floor is not an option, then use something like a countertop or a bench or whatever happens to be available to you. Same thing. I'm going to take my forearms, put them on the bench or the countertop, step my feet back. Okay. My elbows are directly underneath my shoulders, pulling my belly button up towards my spine. And here it's a little bit easier to do this elevated, and maybe you start elevated and work your way down to the floor. This can also be done in a push-up position using your hands. So my hands are here, I'm stepping back, and now I'm in a good push-up position, okay? If this is bothersome to your wrists at all, then I would come down and do on your forearms and not get your wrists involved, okay? So that is an option to be elevated. That's also going to strengthen your shoulders, strengthening our core, working all of the muscles in our body. So you can do that elevated, which I would recommend starting. If you're feeling like a superstar, rock star, and you want to do this on the floor, by all means. Again, hands directly under shoulders, lifting up. And my gaze is slightly down at the floor. I'm pulling my belly button to my spine, and I'm squeezing all of my muscles. Again, this can also be done with knees on the floor, if that feels better. So that is a great exercise. Again, it can be done anywhere. If you need to do it higher up, you can use the countertop, use whatever you have available, work your way down as you get stronger. So maybe you start at the countertop, and then you go down to a bench, and then gradually you go down to the floor. Maybe you start on your knees, and then gradually build up. So that's a plank. So that's a great core strengthener, okay? So we've talked about strengthening our shoulders, reaching up overhead. We've worked on strengthening our core. We've worked on our legs, stepping up and down, sitting and standing. We've talked about lifting up from the floor, working the back part of our legs and our bum. And now we're going to work a bunch of muscle groups and getting in some cardiovascular, some breathing, getting those lungs pumping in a fun kind of way. And here's where I got really creative. We have a hand sanitizer and a cat litter, okay? So we're going to carry these objects, because imagine you're carrying groceries, you're carrying plants, you're carrying equipment, whatever it happens to be. So we're going to start first with two, we'll call these objects. They're on the floor in front of us. And ideally, you want to do this with something like a container, a cat litter, a milk jug, a water jug that has a handle on it. So we're going to come down using our legs, grasping the handles, standing up. We want to take the objects on either side of our hips, noticing my shoulders are back and down, and I'm squeezing the handles. And then I'm going to carry these from one end of the room to the other. Not really, because I only have a small space, so I'm not really going to carry it from one end of the room to the other, but we're going to pretend. And we're taking nice steps. My gaze is forward. I'm turning, I'm walking with purpose. My chest is up, my head is up. Okay, so this is engaging my core. It's helping us with our grip strength. It's also helping us with our posture. Because holding those objects back here, automatically you see what happened. My chest came up. We want to keep our eyes on the horizon. What has a tendency to happen is people do this, stare at your feet, and I'll tell you what happens is your body wants to go where your eyes go. So we don't want to be walking like this, and then next thing you know, we're down on the ground and we don't realize what happens. We want to be up nice and tall, shoulders back, nice open chest. So imagine I would start with, I don't know, a little bit of cat litter in here, a little bit of hand sanitizer. Another technique is having them be two different weights. So maybe your hand sanitizer bottle is full and it's fairly heavy, and maybe your cat litter container is a third of the way full and it's lighter. So you would do the same thing, shoulders back, chest up, and we would carry. Because in life, we're not always going to be carrying objects that weigh the same. So you can't guarantee that your groceries are exactly the same, or your plants are the exact same, or the equipment you're carrying. So we want to get used to carrying objects that maybe are different weights. When we have finished with the exercise, we again put the weights down safely on the floor, the same way we picked them up, and then we stand up. That is called a farmer's carry, okay? So you're carrying your buckets of milk, your bales of hay, imagine you're on a farm, and those are the things that you have to carry. The other version of a carry is called a suitcase carry. Yes, I know most of us don't carry suitcases anymore because we all have things with wheels, but just humor me a little bit. So again, we're going to crouch down, squatting down, using those good strong leg muscles that we worked on earlier, picking up our suitcase, moving it to one side of our body, again, shoulders up and back, proud chest, gazes forward, and we're going to carry and walk with purpose. The benefit of a suitcase carry is you have to try to control your body and keep it upright, because it's going to have a tendency to want to get pulled down by this heavy weight. We want to be up straight, so we're trying to fight gravity. So that's the benefit of carrying the suitcase. And also it'll better prepare you for your trip through the airport in case you can't always pull your carry-on behind you and maybe you're running late for that flight and you actually have to pick up your suitcase and go a little quicker. This will help with that. So when you're putting it down, again, using those leg muscles, sitting it down, and standing back up nice and tall. So that's going to get you a little bit breathless. It's going to work your shoulders, your grip strength. It's going to even work your biceps a little bit. It's going to work those core muscles, and it's going to keep you balanced and upright, because you're going to be looking forward and you're going to have a purpose with your walk. So those are a lot of the strength training exercises that I can recommend doing at home. Again, you saw that we used soup cans, we used water bottles, we used the cat litter container, the hand sanitizer, whatever it is that you have at home. Use what you have, start where you are, and don't overly complicate it. It doesn't have to be stressful or frustrating. Exercise is meant to be fun. It's meant to be something that's sustainable, that you can continue to do, and it's also meant to be accessible to everyone. The final thing I would like to go over is a lot of times, you know, so now we've done our workout and we're a little bit breathless, and maybe we still just need a few more minutes to quiet the body, cool everything down, okay? I'm going to show you 3 different breathing techniques that will help, with cooling everything down and resetting, but also you can do these at any time. So if you need to just take 5 throughout your day, go to a quiet space and maybe work on one of these breathing techniques, I encourage you to do that as well. So I like to do my breathing techniques seated. The first one is called a 4-part breathing exercise. And so what I would like you to do is imagine a square. So I'm gonna show you, and then we'll actually go through it. So imagine your square. So when you breathe in, you're taking 4 seconds to breathe in up the side of your square. We're gonna hold our breath as we move across the top of the square. Let our breath out for 4 as we come down the square. And then we're gonna hold our breath at the bottom as we go across the square. So it's called square breathing, it's called box breathing, 4-count breathing, call it what you will. So the other thing that I will tell you is that if holding your breath at the top doesn't feel comfortable, then that's okay. Just breathe in for 4 and then just breathe out for 4. So you can take out that hold if that feels a little claustrophobic or uncomfortable. So I'm just going to demonstrate that with you. You can join me. I invite you to join me to have this be a little bit interactive if you'd like to practice some breathing So by this, we're going to inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now let's hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. And now let's let it go for 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you can, hold it at the bottom for 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's it helps calm our mind. It helps what's called the parasympathetic nervous system calm down, so that we're not always in that stressful fight or flight, something's chasing us, always on kind of mode that we have a tendency to be in a lot. So this is a great way after you've exercised, or if you just need a minute to do. The second one is counting, it's a 1 to 10 breathing technique. So you'd start with 1, so you'd inhale for 1, exhale for 1, and then you inhale and you hold it a little longer for 2, and then let it out for 2. And you do that until you get all the way up to 10. And that's something to work towards. That's not easy for everyone. So if you do that and you get to 3, and you're like, okay, that's a lot, stay with 3 and eventually build up, because getting to 10 can be a lot. Here's the trick though. If you're starting to do that and you're in a nice, calm state, and then all of a sudden we're thinking about our grocery list and what do we have to do next, and you forget what number you're on, we go all the way back to 1, and we continue until we can stay present and focused and make it all the way up to 10. And then the additional challenge is then going from 10 and going backwards. So this one takes a little bit longer than just the 4 square breathing, but just gives you another option. The third breathing technique, and this is kind of cool, and it's what I do with a lot of my clients. We do it in Tai Chi, we do it in yoga. It's diaphragmatic breathing. So it's breathing with your diaphragm. As we get older, or if we're stressed, we have a tendency to just breathe up here with the top portion of our chest. And we tend to breathe really shallow, like, and all my breath is coming from here. What we want to do is have it coming from our diaphragm. So if you would, let's put one hand on our belly, one hand on our chest. And I want you to take a deep breath in and notice if you can feel which hand is moving. So if I take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, my hand on my chest was the one that was breathing. So I'm probably breathing a little bit shallow, okay? The goal is to try to have both hands moving at the same time. So let's try that again. Let's breathe in and breathe out. And did you notice a difference? Did you notice that maybe both hands moved at the same time? That's where we want to get. So again, 3 to 5 rounds, trying to focus and get both hands to move at the same time. That way we're using our belly and our ribs and our chest to breathe. And that again is going to calm things down and prepare us for whatever's next. That exercise can also be done laying down. Either way, just the focus is trying to get both hands to move at the same time. So that's pretty much all I had for all of you. Does anybody have any questions or want to know about any exercises or the nutrition piece or anything else that we've covered today?
So we do have one question. Is there a certain time of day that's best to work out, Shannon?
So Tammy, that's a great question, and I do get that a lot. It really depends on you as a person. I know a lot of people that I work with generally have more energy in the morning, and they like to do these exercises and to work out in the morning because that's when they have the most energy. And people after lunch have a tendency to start winding down. Maybe that's time for your afternoon nap. We get into the evening, we have less and less energy. But some people do really well, and doing this maybe before bed, an hour or 2 before bed, is something that works better. So I would say pick the time of day that you can do this consistently and that you know that you are going to have the most energy. And if you know that you're going to have a really busy day and you have time in the morning, and that's usually the time that works best, then do it then before the day gets away from you. But from a physical standpoint, it doesn't really matter. It's going to depend on you as a person and what your energy level is and what your day looks like ahead.
Okay, great. And then, I know sometimes folks will do cardio, they'll use weights, and then with this resistance training, if they're trying to incorporate all of these in, one session, do you have a recommendation of like the order in which they should do the exercises?
Sure. So the way that these exercises are designed, they're going to kind of get your heart rate up. So putting your hands up over your head, and then when you're sitting to standing, if you do all of those exercises from the sit to stands and work your way all the way down, you're also going to get a cardio workout in there. So you don't necessarily need to do additional cardio on top of that unless A, you want to, and B, you have the time. So if you have a limited amount of time, these exercises, so if I'm sitting down and I decide to do this 10 times, I'm going to sit down and stand up 10 times, and then I'm going to go over to my step and I'm going to step up 10 times on one leg. Then I'm going to come down on the floor and I'm going to do my bridges 10 times. Then I'm going to have a seat and I'm going to do my overhead presses 10 times. And then I'm going to hold my plank for maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds. And then I'm going to grab my cat litter box and my hand sanitizer, and I'm going to carry these. Maybe I carry it all the way around the room a couple times. I'm already working up a sweat and my heart rate's up. So I've just incorporated cardio into my strength training workout without having to do anything separate. So you can do both in the same day. That's not a problem. So if you decide you have 20 minutes, you want to do some exercises in the morning, and then you want to get your cardio in by going for an afternoon or an evening walk, that's not a problem at all. You don't really have to break them up.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, because I didn't realize that you didn't have to do cardio and resistance training, that it's all incorporated. That's really interesting. So we are at the end of the hour and the workshop. I wanted to thank you so much, Shannon, for sharing this great information with us today and for guiding us through practical exercises. I also want to thank our audience today. Thank you so much for joining us this past hour. We know your time is valuable. I wanted to invite everyone to our next Caregiver Health and Wellness Workshop, Transformation by Affirmation, which is on May 31st from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Just a reminder to please fill out the survey where you can share with us what caregiving topics you are interested in for future programming. I hope everyone has a great afternoon. Thank you so much for being here, and take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And I hope everyone enjoyed it and got something out of it. I really appreciate the opportunity, and stay strong, lift well, be safe.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks.